What happens when the original superhero team, the JSA, is trapped in a nightmarish, war-torn illusion, and the All-Star Squadron must fight to save them? Tune in right now to the Source Material Comics Podcast.
Get ready to dive into the comic book realm where heroes rise and villains take the helm. We're here to dissect the stories and the art. On Source Material, we tear the panels apart.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Source Material Comics Podcast. April showers may bring May flowers, but you know what else April brings? Fellow podcasters and bloggers participating in one of the largest events focusing on tales of the Justice Society of America. That's right, JS April. Welcome, everyone, to the Source Material Comics Podcast's contribution to the JS April event, where we will be discussing All-Star Squadron number 19 and 20 on the shelves back in December of 82 and January of 1983, brought to us by DC Comics, Roy Thomas and Jerry Ordway. I am your host, Jesse Starcher, and I'm not alone. From the hallowed hall of the superhero satellite, you may know him as Charlton Hero on X, but we know him as the ultimate alpha fight villain hailing from the Great White North. He is Chris Bailey. Sir, welcome to the Source Material Comics Podcast.
What an introduction, Jesse Starcher. I was retired, and then you pulled me back in. I thought it was an Alpha Flight podcast, so it came equipped to destroy that entire brand, and I found out it was All-Star Squadron, ASS.
ASS. Yeah, I tried to work. Tell me.
Listen, I got to tell you, I'm a DC fan, so let's start with that.
Okay.
Back in the day when everybody was doing the Marvel, Chris Bailey was doing the DC thing. He was hitting up the new Teen Titans back in 81. Loving that stuff. Legion of Superheroes fan. Justice League of America as we hit into, like, after post-crisis is my jam. And then a scattered issue of All-Star Squadron used to creep its way into my collection from time to time. And I'm like, who are these old fogies? Why are we talking about World War II in 1983?
Yep.
And now, just when I thought it was safe to pull away, Jesse Starcher, you pull me back in.
Why does it take me an hour to read this book? I don't understand.
Words were said.
Dense. So, yeah, I mean, I love our events. I love participating in Superblog Team Up. I love participating here. This is the first time I've ventured outside of that. It's brand new for me. So I was like, yeah, sure. Count me in. I'll gladly do something in regards to the JSA. Now, do I know much about the JSA? I mean, sort of, kind of. Do I know anything about the All-Star Squadron? We'll get there. I definitely don't. But immediately I was like, okay, I've got to figure out what to do, because I'm pretty sure this has gone on a couple times, right? JS April has been a thing before, hasn't it?
Absolutely it has.
I thought I've caught it on podcasts in the past. So I was like, okay, I've got to find something, anything. Being an astute comic historian, I immediately went to the internet and I said, find me a list. So I was like, okay, find me the list of some of the best JSA stories. And of course, anything that's great, anything that's top tier has probably already been done. I'm always down to read something that I've never read before, so I'm glad to check it out for sure. This is definitely out of my wheelhouse. You know me as the 90s guy. I'm the guy that enjoys, the Unspoken Decade, the Unspoken Issues podcast. This is early 80s, and I don't read a lot of these comics because of some of the criticisms I'll probably have in regards to the writing here tonight. I found that was just kind of indicative of the period of the early 80s for me for some reason. Maybe what I was exposed to. I know there was other stuff probably out there. It wasn't like this, but I kind of avoided that because of that specific reason.
I get that completely, Jesse. I'm a fan of both eras. I love me some 90s stuff. Trust me. The stuff that you guys cover, I'm all in when it comes to that. That was my heyday of collecting. But this is where I began. The 80s were my beginning. This is where I soiled my royal oats on DC. All-Star Squadron was not one of those things that I picked up, but it just has this, just like the JSA, this sentimental attachment that I never really got. So when you brought this up, I was like, man, I got to see why people love this so much. I got to go back and read this as a grown-ass adult. Maybe I can connect the dots here and understand.
There's a lot that happens when these two issues start. So issue 19 starts. There's a good bit of history being made at this point. And I want to break down some of this stuff for you real quick. Let's talk about the beginning of the creation of the All-Star Squadrons. Their first appearance is in Justice League of America 193, which is on shelves May 7th of 1981, created by writer Roy Thomas, Rich Buckler's pencils, and Jerry Ordway on the inks. 1 month later, in June of 81, All-Star Squadron #1 is on the shelves with the same creative team. Okay. These three pal around until about issue 5. Issue 6 brings in new penciler Adrian Gonzalez, who had a little bit of history with DC working on small stories for titles such as Ghosts, Unexpected, and Unknown Soldier. And then Thomas, Gonzalez, and Ordway are constants on the book up to about issue 15, except for 13, where Mike DiCarlo steps in as anchor for an issue. And now this is where Ordway takes a break. He just takes a small break. Rick Hoberg comes in and takes over on inks. But when Ordway comes back 4 months later in December of 1982, we're right here in issue 19. He's doing double duty, kind of what we go Ordway for, doing pencils and inks for these 2 issues we're about to cover. It's a bit of a career change for Ordway because he becomes penciler on issue 21 up through 26, credited as an artist on annual #2, and then doing pencils for issue 29. Finally rounds things out on All-Star Squadron annual #3 in June of 84. By this time, he's in the middle of his 10-issue run with Roy Thomas on Infinity Inc. Did you read Infinity Inc. by chance? Was that one that you checked out?
I did.
Okay.
It was one of those, Infinity Inc. was one of those comics that always ended up in your collection. I never had a straight run of it. I had various issues. Does that make sense? If you were a comic book fan in the 80s, you would always find your fair share of Infinity Inc. And that probably wasn't a good thing until McFarlane hit that book like a nuclear missile. Then it became super collectible at the beginning of the 90s. And everybody was, oh my God, Infinity Inc. And you're like, you thought this was trash 2 months ago, fool. What you doing? One of those things.
Thomas writes the book All-Star Squadron up to issue 67, which is on the shelves December 26, 1986. And just kind of throwing this out here, because we talked a little bit about this in our Twitter chat, X chat, whatever you want to call it. Roy's first credit, when you look at Mike's Amazing World, he was writing Modeling with Millie in 1965. So
one of Stan Lee's big things.
Right.
He loved the model, I can guarantee you.
His last credit, according to Mike's Amazing World, and I think somebody corrected me, or at least put this in our chat, that Roy Thomas is still writing. And the dude is 83. No, you might be right. He might be turning 84 this year. Yeah, he's still cranking stuff out. And just to kind of give you an idea of the prolific career that Roy Thomas has had from 1970 to 1999. For a 30-year span, this guy was writing an average of 3.93 comics per month, almost 4 comics a month. That's 1 comic a week for 30 years he's writing, which is just unreal. A lot of people, when it comes to the All-Star Squadron, talk about his work on Invaders that he did from 1975 to 1978, kind of a preface for this. On December 23rd, 1980, Roy's work on Green Lantern #138 hits, sitting on the shelves. His first DC work credited by Mike's Amazing World of Comics anyway. So yeah, he's working Conan.
Conan, right. I don't know if you read any Roy Thomas Conan. That's some good stuff starting out, man. That is good stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, just a breakdown of his career, because I like the numbers. Marvel, 1,333 stories. DC, 357. First Comics, 28. Dark Horse, 20. Pacific, 6. Charlton, 2. And 1 Dynamite story. I looked at that yesterday. I think it was a Red Sonja tale. So back to Conan. The top 5 titles, according to that breakdown, we got All-Star Squadron, which is 67. Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, 67. Avengers, 71 stories. Conan the Barbarian, 150. Savage Sword of Conan, 197.
Oh, my Lord. That
197.
Is listen to this, though. So the dude continues on with Conan. He leaves Conan, goes to DC, and then he does Iraq, Son of Thunder, which is basically
Conan.
The
dude's got Conan love, for sure. All right. I do want to give a shout out to, I think it was BTP, Between the Pages blog, that kind of spoke up and said that Roy Thomas going from Millie the Model to Sergeant Fury was an interesting story, because this guy can't write. Somebody else saw this, that he couldn't write women's dialogue, and was like, oh, let's get him on like a really macho title. Sergeant Fury's one to do it. But apparently the way this worked out was there was a blackout in New York City. Stan Lee was supposed to script 2 issues that evening after work. Because of the blackout, Stan was only able to type up 1. And the script he didn't get done was an issue of Sergeant Fury, so he assigned it to Roy, and there you go. History was made. Jerry Ordway, just real quick. His work prior to this is actually, when you look at Mike's Amazing World of Comics, it's not a whole lot.
No, not when he started out, but Jerry Ordway was definitely one of the most iconic Superman artists, and he was legendary in that aspect, to the point where when it comes to the Superman you think you know, a lot of the stuff that was merchandised was Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Right.
Everything you see in stores, even to this day, is that. But some of the most iconic art, particularly during the Triangle era, was Ordway. He really blew that thing out of the park. And I think he's a very underrated Superman artist. He's in my top 5. He does a really good job of capturing that, man.
All right, well, let's talk about the All-Star Squadron creation and premise as far as the team goes. So Roy Thomas, he has a love for the Golden Age. There is no doubt about it. Invaders was something that seemed to be kind of a premise to this type of story here that we're getting. He used the All-Star Squadron as a platform to explore and revise DC's Golden Age history, delving into the origins and adventures of various creators. Thomas, along with artists Rich Buckler and Jerry Ordway, sought to create a team that would bring together a wide array of DC's Golden Age characters and integrate them into a cohesive narrative set during World War II. The premise of the All-Star Squadron revolves around President Franklin D. Roosevelt's superhero draft, known as Article X. You ever hear that?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
what
Article
is that?
X. It brings in all of these heroes together. In the wake of Pearl Harbor, Roosevelt calls upon all active American masked crime fighters and superhuman adventurers to unite as a single wartime organization. This call to action leads to the formation of the All-Star Squadron, a team composed of both well-known and lesser-known heroes from the Golden Age. The team established its base of operations in the Trilon and Perisphere, which we're going to talk a little bit about here. 2 iconic structures from the 1939 New York World's Fair. All right. I'm going to go down through this, and I want you to give our listeners an idea of who these characters are from what you read and what you know. All right. Let's start with Johnny Quick. Give the listeners an idea who Johnny Quick is.
Johnny Quick was a photographer, and he gets super speed by reciting a math formula.
He does recite a math formula. That is right.
And he becomes a member of the All-Star Squadron. He's linked up with Liberty Bell on the team, or Libby Lawrence. Later on, they're going to have their own little daughter, Jessie Chambers, who also is going to inherit their powers. So there you go.
That's right. So
and Johnny Quick is your cocky speedster. He's like a golden age crusty Flash, but he doesn't have everything mastered. He's got the cockiness, but he doesn't have the finesse to go with his power.
Love it. Love it. Then we have Robert Crane, Robotman. What are your thoughts here?
I love the look. Don't really know much about him. Just that I think his whole deal is that he transfers his brain into a robotic body. So that's pretty well all I really know about him. And I think he's like the expert on the group. So, they all rely on him for his mind and superhuman abilities. He's the guy who can tear off doors. He's also the thinker of the group. You know what I mean? He's the Chet ETP of the All-Star Squadron, this guy.
Perfect. Then we have Henry Haywood Sr., Commander Steel.
So what I really like about Steel is that Justice League of America. So remember the death of the Justice League America during the Legends crossover and all this stuff. I remember it well. And Steel was a big part of that. A version of Steel, I should say. And I always used to like that hero. So as soon as I saw him here, I'm like, yes, I'm going to get more Steel. Now, this is Henry Haywood here, like he's a World War II hero. His whole deal is that he had to go through extensive reconstructive surgery and replaced his bone with, get this, not adamantium, just steel, Jesse. That's like aluminum. Like, hey,
right,
man.
Hey, it's the 40s. I mean, come on.
That was top-notch steel, okay?
Steel had to walk so Wolverine could run, all right? Oh, yes. Speaking of Roy Thomas and Wolverine, oh, wait a second. I don't know if that's a sore spot for you or not.
Off the air. We just lost our street cred bringing that up.
All right. So I think this is a new member for the All-Star Squadron. I believe her first appearance was in the JLA 193. This is Firebrand. So what's your thoughts on Firebrand?
Don't know. That one I didn't really know much about. They call her Brandy in the thing. Her name is Danette Riley, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
The only note that I had on her when I did some research, she was a volcanologist.
Oh,
and she
volcanologist.
Yes. She was also the original sister to the original Firebrand, Rod Riley. She's got pyrokinetic skills and all that stuff. I don't really know much about her. She shoots fire, people. That's what happens here. She's Firebrand.
Hey, you can tell by the name.
Right. And she's also the complicated girl. She's always got her drama all up in the area, Jesse. That's what I would say about Firebrand.
Firebrand. Did you have anything additional to add with Liberty Bell? I'm trying to think of her power set. Does she even have a power set? Is she just a human being like all of us, or do you know?
I think she's just an athlete. She just happens to be athletic. I think that's really all that's her deal. But I mean, she's the one who gets entangled with Johnny Quick, and she's the one, they have some notable moments in the sack.
She definitely makes a save, I think, at one point. Doesn't she save Johnny, I think, in their first issue? Johnny gets hit, and anyway. All right, then we have Tarantula, who has a web gun. I know that much. And
Tarantula, the most generic superhero. Like, that is one badass costume. I'm thinking of going to the next Comic-Con that's in my area, going as Tarantula, because that is some basic stuff.
Just going to have to wear a sign that says Tarantula on it so they know what's going on.
Tarantula is based on, I think he's based on Sandman, isn't he? The original Sandman with the gas mask and the...
I didn't look up to see who he was based on. I can tell you this much. Tarantula just joined the team in issue 18. The reason he was doing that is because he was masquerading as Sandman. I assume he's related in some way, somehow, but apparently he obviously decided, well, okay, I can't be the Sandman. I've got to be Tarantula. But that's about all I know, too. He's got a web gun that he shoots string out of. That's about it. And
he reminds me of a Archie MLJ character. He seems like one of just a basic
Gotcha. Right.
If you had create a mode on your comic, this would be default character number 1. I'm literally losing my cred here with the All-Star Squadron. They are cursing their ass off at a Starcher. That's what's happening.
Oh, they're killing us. Yep. They've got strongly worded X tweets coming at us. All right.
And plus, he's got a web gun, and he uses it hilariously later on against a robot. I can't wait to get into that.
So real quick about issue 18. I already talked about Tarantula here. To break down where we're going into issue 19. Tarantula steps into the ranks of the All-Star Squadron, and the team finds himself facing a new and powerful threat, the hammer-wielding warrior claiming to be Thor. But is he truly the Norse god of thunder, or just another pretender with dangerous power? Amid the chaos, an even greater mystery unfolds. The Justice Society of America has vanished without a trace. Their absence looms over the team, but before they can piece together what happened, a cryptic message arrives. A blinking light at the Trilon Tower, site of the 1939 World's Fair, signals a challenge in Morse code aimed directly at the All-Star Squadron. Whoever took down the JSA is now calling them out. Determined to uncover the truth and face the unseen enemy, the squadron races into action, but with their greatest predecessors already out of the picture, one thing is clear: the threat they now face is powerful enough to bring even the mightiest heroes to their knees. Now, here's what's interesting about issue 18. We get not one, but 2 Marvel-esque references, as there is an editor's note that the Tarantula was referred to by the press as Spider-Man at one point. Now, I don't know if that actually happened in the 40s comic, like when the Tarantula was kind of but there was another Marvel reference, which is, of course, Thor. So I'm counting that as 2.
Do you think they're trying to shoehorn some Marvel action here with some legalities? Stan Lee stole it, by God. And, Stan was there waiting for it. It's Spider-Man. I thought of it myself, Steve Ditko.
What do you think of that? And then
it was the tarantula all along.
And then the other thing that's crazy of what happens in issue 18 is the term retcon seems to be officially coined in the letters page prior to what we are getting ready to start here in issue 19. Retroactive continuity. This is actually from the wiki. A printed use of retroactive continuity referring to the altering of history in a fictional work is in All-Star Squadron number 18 from DC Comics. The series was set on DC's Earth 2, an alternate universe in which Golden Age comic characters age in real time. All-Star Squadron was set during World War II on Earth 2 in the past of an alternate universe, which had repercussions on the contemporary continuity of the DC multiverse. Each issue changed the history of the fictional world in which it was set. In the letters column, a reader remarked that the comic, quote, must make you, referring to the creators, feel at times as if you are painting yourself into a corner. And your matching of the Golden Age comics history with new plot lines has been an artistic and I hope financial success. Roy Thomas responds and says, "We like to think that an enthusiastic all-star booster at one of Adam Malin's creation conventions in San Diego came up with the best name for it a few months back, retroactive continuity. Has kind of a ring to it, don't you think?" That's what he says. So There you go. We're stepping into history here, right after history happens, going into issue 19.
So I always ask this question of anyone I podcast with. If you were John Connor and could go back in time, would you shoot that bastard who created retcons?
Oh my God.
Would you start there, Jesse?
I tell you,
Man.
what would comics be without that? Like, what would storytelling be without that? I mean, I really, new and novel concepts, I guess.
So we're on the bubble of the ultimate retcon here, which is Crisis on Infinite Earths. So that's going to reset the DC universe, going to change everything. Then we're going to go into a long run of, great characters. You got Burns, Superman. You got Perez on Wonder Woman. You got Batman all changed up. You got the Justice League International. Everything just flows out of Crisis, you know what I mean? Back then, you didn't change it all the time. We had to wait till 0 Hour before the next big landscaping reboot, you know what I mean? It was in the 90s. So every decade seemed to have its own little reboot. Now it's like they reboot it's like a toilet flush. Nah, we're 5 issues in. Don't like that? Flush. Reboot.
Yeah.
Marvel's horrible for it. Horrible for it.
I think that's what Roy Thomas is known for when it comes to All-Star Squadron, using this, trying to tell things. This is what we're getting ready to get into, something that was never told supposedly back in the Golden Age, this new story, because the JSA have never met our villain here, Brainwave. And this story that we're telling, they still haven't met it by the end of issue 20. They haven't met him yet. They just were captured by him. So then I think his official meeting with him is later. But anyway, Marty McFly could do some damage, I think. I still think it's inevitable. I think it would be inevitable. Some storyteller is going to come up with I got a way of changing things. All right. So
I got a picture of Roy Thomas strapped to the back of a DeLorean now, arriving in 2025. Here from DC, Roy.
Roy Thomas is George McFly, okay? And Marty McFly shows up in the suit and puts the headphones on his head. I'm Darth Vader.
So good. Well played. Well played.
All right. Issue 19, I'm going to do a quick synopsis. We'll get into talking about it here. Death, a state of mind. In the shadow of the iconic 1939 New York World's Fair, the All-Star Squadron assembles to confront a chilling mystery. Johnny Quick, Firebrand, Robotman, Commander Steel, Liberty Bell, and the Tarantula exchange lighthearted banter as they approach the eerie grounds. However, their jovial mood is quickly shattered when they discover the Justice Society of America. Heroes like Wonder Woman and Hawkman trapped in stasis pods within the Perisphere. The haunting scene sets the stage for a battle against the sinister Brainwave, who reveals himself as the orchestrator of this elaborate trap. Through illusions from his giant brain, he taunts the All-Star Squadron, detailing his diabolical plans to test and dominate the JSA. Brainwave's power lies in its ability to weave vivid, inescapable dreamscapes. Each JSA member is imprisoned in a nightmare tailored to their deepest fears and desires. Hawkman battles relentless Japanese forces. Wonder Woman fights valiantly in the jungles of the Philippines, and others endure similarly harrowing scenarios. These dreams are more than illusions, though. They drain the life force of their victims, pushing them closer to death with each passing moment. The All-Star Squadron watches in horror, realizing the stakes. Even if one JSA member perishes in the dream world, the others will follow. As Brainwave grows stronger, feeding on the energy of his captives, the All-Star Squadron scrambles to devise a plan, but their efforts are thwarted by his psychic defenses and the villain's grip tightens. The issue crescendos in a dramatic cliffhanger as Hawkman's fate hangs by a thread, leaving the heroes desperate to save the JSA before it's too late. With time running out, the All-Star Squadron faces their greatest challenge yet in a battle that tests both their physical strength and their resolve. All right, there you go. That is issue 19 in a nutshell. What do you think of the cover of issue 19?
Oh, man, I definitely would have bought this on the rack. Anytime you've got a super team in stasis, how many times did you see the Justice League pinned up, they're strapped up and, in peril? I love it. So I'm a huge fan of those style of covers. Brainwave, not my type of villain. He's sort of like your Dr. Savannah, your old school, Fawcett Publications villain. I'll get you, Shazam. Like the real sinister bad guy. But it works for this story. Cover definitely works for me. You got the Justice Society of America. My God, just look at him. You got Dr. Fate with that half helmet thing going on there. You've got Hawkman and Wonder Woman. You're like, oh my God, Dr. Midnight, the Atom. There's so many people here. So cool. I really liked it.
If you're a fan of DC Comics and you've been around as long as Roy Thomas, maybe even a little bit longer, imagine they're telling these stories from back in the Golden Age. I'm a Golden Age scholar. And now we get a situation where Brainwave is attacking the JSA before it ever happened. What could this possibly be? How's he going to weave this story? That's going to grab you.
If you're a fan of retro DC, particularly the 40s and 50s, you'll know that this is pretty well a trope cover. This idea of all the heroes in jeopardy and another group of heroes going to save them, maybe a younger team, has been done over and over again. If you see this cover, the Justice Society are bound in this electrical stasis. In the background, you see Brainwave, very sinister, hands in the air. He's partying like it's 1999. This boy's got this team, right? And in the foreground, shadowed out, you got the All-Star Squadron. And they're like, my God, it's our heroes. We must save them. It's a classic trope cover. I think it works. It's a throwback, which is exactly what the All-Star Squadron should be. So, yeah, the cover works for me.
Right up there at the top, the return of the Justice Society. Oh, my goodness.
Cool.
Okay.
What's funny about this is that they always talk about the Justice Society and Wonder Woman. Did you notice that in the context of this? Yeah, so it's like, now I've captured the Justice Society and Wonder Woman. You're like, oh, who's not allowed to play in the sandbox?
All right, so here's some thoughts on the issue here. I'll throw out my stuff, then I'll let you go to town. Clearly, we've got a period piece here that's referencing a lot of continuity in Golden Age comics, which there are a lot of dated references through. I think they're making some mentions of probably some public figures, and I have no idea who they are. Okay, that's fine. And I, back in 81 or 83, I would have had no clue.
We'll give you a pass.
I did do a little bit of research on the 1939 World's Fair because for some reason I was like, wow, this is pretty neat. You know, what was going on here? So this is 1941 or 42 when they're telling this story. The 1939 World's Fair goes for 2 seasons, 1939 and 1940. The Trilon's an actual thing. I was like, is this an actual thing? It sure is. The Trilon actually existed, and it is at about 610 feet tall. So when Johnny Quick is racing up the side and he says it's about 700 feet, that's pretty realistic. Somebody did their homework on it. The perisphere did exist at one point. It was a spherical structure with a diameter of about 180 feet.
Do you want to know something? So they're talking about the Trilon, and he says it's 700 feet. And then they make the point of going back and mentioning that actually, you know, back in the day, you also got that guy in 1941 who does actually Jesse Starcher. It was actually 610 feet, according to Time magazine. I'll have you know.
Did it actually say that?
Actually in the text.
I missed that.
I will read it out. You keep going and I will reference it.
Well, what's funny is at this point, when I'm doing my research, I'm like, clearly Roy Thomas is going to the library. He is doing his research just to get all this down, which is, I appreciate that 100%.
It's our boy Tarantula. And he actually says, spoken like one of the mystery novel characters, JQ. By the way, the Trilon is only 610 feet. Contrary to what you've read in Life magazine. Like, why would you put that in as...
Well, as if we didn't like Tarantula enough. He's that guy.
He's actually the Tarantula.
Actually, I'm not Spider-Man. I'm not Sandman.
Love it.
Perisphere, a spherical structure with a diameter of about 180 feet. It housed a diorama called the Democracy, showcasing a utopian city of the future designed by Henry Dreyfuss. In the middle of this story, and I didn't put this in the synopsis, but as you get into the Perisphere, they run into this Electro, the robot. We wouldn't know his name if it weren't for Brainwave. I see you've beat Electro. Good job. And then he's like, I got another challenge for you. Electro was another exhibit. He was an actual exhibit. He was a 7-foot tall robot who was there during the 1939 season of the World's Fair, and then was given a dog called Sparko, I believe was his name. He was given a dog. So Sparko the dog, who was undoubtedly a good boy. You've already given your first impressions of Brainwave on the front cover here. So Henry King Sr., created by Gardner Fox and Joe Gallagher, first appeared All-Star Comics number 15 in 1943. He's an American psychiatrist whose sole focus is to acquire power for himself. He has the ability to cast illusions. He's very smart, possesses telepathy, create a force field.
So picture Gollum with from Lord of the Rings, and Gollum has a pair of John Lennon glasses, and he's completely bald, and he's also has this long green, I would say, almost like a monk robe that he wears, and he lives in a gigantic mansion miles and miles away from the World's Fairgrounds. And this guy, he operates in a almost like a control room, similar to like the Professor X, like Cerebro. And he even gets to wear the helmet a little bit later on. But what's even more hilarious is that he speaks into a microphone. So he's communicating to the World's Fair via a microphone. And it's a corded microphone. There's actually one scene where he goes downstairs, leaves Cerebro to go get a drink or something, but he's dragging this gigantic corded microphone down over the stairs and actually clutching it in his hand because it's so long. I just found it so ridiculous, but he's a really dumb, and he has really unusual speech. He goes, "You see, your friends don't know you're asleep. So real, like dream images, like dancing sugar plums in their head." And you're like, oh my God, sugar plums.
He is definitely over the top. He legitimately called the All-Star Squadron so they could watch the JSA die. Like, hey guys, come on over. I got something I want to show you. Watch the JSA get killed. And I was like,
he basically says, if you wake them up, you're going to kill them instantly, okay? But in his words, Jesse, he says, "Awaken them and you shall kill them instantly, as surely as if you plunged a dagger into their collective bosom."
Wow.
Love it.
Wanted to break in here real quick. This is JS April, after all. I wanted to break down the Justice Society characters that are being held prisoner by Brainwave. And the roll call is as follows. Hawkman, the original Hawkman, Carter Hall, a reincarnation of the ancient Egyptian prince Khufu. He discovered the anti-gravity properties of the nth metal, which allowed him to fly with artificial wings. He is also an archaeologist and uses ancient weapons. Hawkman first appeared in Flash Comics #1, January 1940, and was created by writer Gardner Fox and artist Dennis Neville. Starman, the original Starman, Ted Knight, is an astronomer who invented the gravity rod, later known as the cosmic rod, which allows him to fly and manipulate energy. He first appeared in Adventure Comics 61, April of 1941, and was created by artist Jack Burnley. Wonder Woman, Princess Diana of Themyscira, is an Amazon warrior with superhuman strength, speed, and the ability to fly. She wields bulletproof bracelets and the lasso of truth. Wonder Woman first appeared in All-Star Comics #8, December 1941, and was created by William Moulton Marston and artist Harry G. Peter. Johnny Thunder, the Golden Age Johnny Thunder, John L. Thunder, possesses a magical, genie-like being called Thunderbolt, whom he controls with the command phrase, "Say you." This grants him reality-warping powers and good luck. He first appeared in Flash Comics #1, January 1940, and was created by John Wentworth and Stan Ashmeyer. The Sandman, Wesley Dodds, is a detective who uses his intellect, detective skills, and a gas gun that emits a fast-acting sedative mist to fight crime. He also experiences prophetic dreams. The Sandman first appeared in New York World's Fair Comics #1 from 1939 and was created by writer Gardner Fox and Burt Christman. The Atom. Al Pratt was initially a small college student who became a skilled fighter through training. He later developed limited super strength and an atomic punch. The Atom first appeared in All-American Comics #19 from October of 1940 and was created by writer Bill O'Connor and artist Ben Flinton. Dr. Fate, Kent Nelson, gained powerful magical abilities through the Helmet of Fate, the Amulet of Anubis, and the Cloak of Destiny. Artifacts of the Lord of Order, Naboo. His powers include spell casting, illusion casting, and control over elements. Dr. Fate first appeared in More Fun Comics #55 from May of 1940 and was created by writer Gardner Fox and artist Howard Sherman. Dr. Midnight, who was Dr. Charles McNider, a surgeon who was blinded by a grenade but gained the ability to see perfectly in darkness. He uses his special infrared goggles to see in daylight and blackout bombs to disorient his enemies. Dr. Midnight first appeared in All-American Comics #25 from April of 1941 and was created by writer Charles Reisenstein and artist Stanley Ashmeyer. And then finally, Green Lantern, Alan Scott, a railroad engineer who gained his powers from a magical lantern he found after a train wreck. The lantern contained the Star Heart, a fragment of the Guardian's power which he fashioned into a power ring. Alan Scott first appeared in All-American Comics number 16 from July of 1940 and was created by writer Bill Finger and artist Martin Odell. He was a founding member of the Justice Society of America.
So let's switch gears, talk about the JSA and their dreams. To run it down here real quick, we got Hawkman. He's dropping bombs. He's flying with the other airmen. Starman's taking out planes. Wonder Woman's hitting Japanese soldiers with a tree. Johnny Thunder's flying through the sky with the Thunderbolt by his side. Sandman's mowing enemies down with ferocity. We got the Atom. He's taking out tanks. We've got Dr. Fate taking out ships. Dr. Midnight helping aircraft find planes in the dark. I didn't catch this on my first read through because I was trying to figure out, okay, what's his plot here? What is Brainwave doing? And then the second read through, I started to realize he's getting them to feed into their own bloodlust. Yeah. They are wanting to just kill enemies, and that's usually not what they do. They will take some out, I'm sure. Back in the Golden Age, maybe they would kill them. I don't know, but it's interesting to see them have to go through. They're doing this and they're kind of enjoying it as well because they feel that they're defending their own country, but they're also killing all these people. Any thoughts on their dream sequences, anything like that?
So we get to see more darker dream sequences in the next issue, of course.
Right.
But this one, you get to see them collectively kicking some ass. If you go back to the 40s again and think about the old Captain America comic books that you used to see, he's always facing the Nazis. He's always beating up the Japanese. They're trying to shoehorn this into the 80s where sensibilities are starting to come around, okay? You can't use the same terms that you did back then, because if this particular book was done in 1950, I can tell you Roy Thomas would be using some different terms inside this book. They're sort of holding back on the racism here, but still going full force on these are the enemy and we must beat them up. So it's almost like some leftover sentiment that Roy Thomas is trying to get out of his system.
So Johnny Thunder and Thunderbolt are like, let's get everybody together. There's a high-ranking official there. I'm sure it's probably somebody I should know, but I don't know. And he's like, hey, guys, got all the heroes together. I wanted to let you know we are now crowning you as the Justice Battalion of America, and your first mission is to attack Japan. The JSA show up, but all of a sudden, they start to get killed left and right. Sure enough, Brainwave's nightmares are killing the JSA in real life. It seems like they are dying, and
that's what we're led to. That's what we're led to believe, and that's how he positions himself with the All-Star Squadron, to believe that he's actually murdering, their heroes. You know what I mean? So the concept of it works pretty good because it's the Freddy Krueger concept where, I'm going to invade your dreams. I'm going to hold you hostage. This is going to feel very real to you, but in reality, I'm killing you in a dream state. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's how he's holding them captive subconsciously. I kind of dig that sort of thing because it allows you to do different things, more violent things, as we'll see, because the people are getting bayoneted, they're being crushed. Everything is going to happen to the JSA here. They don't last very long in Dreamland, is what I'll tell you. So thank goodness it was all a dream, Jesse. Bobby Ewing style. We're wake up in the
Bobby Ewing. That's a Dallas reference, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
You just made a 40-year-old reference.
Bingo.
You are the Roy Thomas of this podcast.
It's my kids, when I told them that I was going to use Skype, and they were like, what is Skype? What? The dinosaur. Dad.
That's perfect.
I want to talk about Roy Thomas and his writing in this issue. Very verbose. This is the equivalent of reading the phone book. If you're comparing this to today's comics, you got about 22 pages of comic books today. If you pick up an issue of Batman, you're getting about 22 pages. And there's going to be very little dialogue. There might be a few splash pages. Batman's kicking a bunch of ass. There's very little dialogue. Do you know why there's very little dialogue? Because Roy Thomas said it all in 1983, Jesse. All of the words he said in this book. I don't think he's particularly good here. So here's why I'll tell you. The guy does not know how to write women's dialogue. So he struggles with this. Here's some of the comments that I made. So it's the point where Electro the robot, which is basically the display item inside the World's Fair, Johnny Quick hits it hard and is sent flying by Firebrand, and she hopes that he can, now get this, come through like Pee-wee tees at a shortstop.
So again, I was like, wait, what is being referenced here? Is that a person or is that something else? What is a Pee-wee tee?
It's a baseball reference. Talking about shortstop,
okay.
and Pee-wee, and he's coming short at the coming through like Pee-wee tees at a shortstop. I don't know what that means, but no girl talks like that. And another thing, this is hilarious. So if you're seeing the team, so it's this big, gigantic golden robot. It looks like something out of the 60s Spider-Man cartoon. And they're all battling it, and here comes good old Tarantula, and he's got what is the equivalent of a Dollar Tree water squirter, and he points at this thing, and he shoots one single rope. And it's like if I walked up to you, Starcher, and just threw rope at you. I'm not aiming it. It doesn't coil around you. I'm throwing it at you. And it is so
Dude,
hilarious.
it's called a web gun. There's no webbing happening here. You want to call one strand of something a web? That's not the case. Just saying. Just saying.
And I think Thomas wants to give us a dump load of American history. So he's talking about the World Fair. He's talking about Lagoon of Nations, why it exists. He's breaking down that, what they call it? What was it called? The Trilon.
Oh, the Trilon.
Which is 700 feet. Actually, it's only 610 according to Time magazine. Like, who needs this information? And my favorite part was that they were summons by Morse code. Can you imagine? Paging All-Star Squadron. Like horrible.
Yep,
But listen, I do dig the theme of the first book. Listen, you got your superhero team in peril. You got the new kids on the block coming to save their ass. I kind of dig it. You know what I mean? The classic villain. It's a throwback issue to the 40s, and I think it does its job.
Did anything stand out to you on issue 19 for Ordway's art? Like, did you? Anything?
That splash page right out of the gate where they're running towards the first page. You got Steel and Johnny Quick and everybody's running. It's the rendition of their faces. There's more clarity. They've got personality. The characters look good. They're structured well. I love the visual of Ordway's art. And this is him only getting started. He becomes Mr. DC for a long time. Think about early Todd McFarlane. That stuff is garbage, hot garbage first when he starts, but he gets really good. Ordway starts good. This guy is like professional out of the gate, out of the womb.
That's kind of what put me when I was looking at his credits. I was like, I specifically said he doesn't have much before this hits, before he starts inking All-Star Squadron. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're going to do pencils now. Like so he's clearly either had a background in art prior to this and the inking was just him getting into the business. Now let me show you what I can do. It does. It knocks your socks off. It's pretty amazing.
There's one page I would love to own the original art, and it's where the All-Star Squadron discover the Justice Society hanging. Man, that is a splash. That is artwork, my friend. Jerry Ordway. Amazing.
Fantastic.
Really good.
All right. Anything else there before I go into the synopsis on 20?
I think we're good.
Here we go. Issue 20 of the story begins with an ominous atmosphere as Green Lantern, Alan Scott, finds himself grappling with a haunting moral dilemma. The All-Star Squadron faces an existential threat orchestrated by the sinister Brainwave, whose manipulative powers cast the heroes into a surreal nightmare. Brainwave's machinations entangle the heroes in illusory scenarios, forcing them to relive distorted versions of their memories and fears. As the group strives to unravel this mental labyrinth, they discover that Brainwave's true aim is not merely their defeat, but their psychological destruction. In the climactic moments, Green Lantern, who avoided Brainwave's capture, takes center stage, confronting both Brainwave and the consequences of his own immense power. In a dreamlike sequence set in a warped version of wartime Japan, Alan finds his friends dead and unleashes the full might of his ring very purposefully, causing catastrophic destruction. The scene is a harrowing exploration of unchecked power and the weight of responsibility as Alan's actions lead to mass devastation, filling him with guilt and despair. However, his power reverses the effects of Brainwave's assault, reviving his fallen teammates and breaking free of the villain's grip. The aftermath is somber yet hopeful. The All-Star Squadron regroups, shaken but determined. Alan's internal struggle leaves him deeply scarred, haunted by the refrain, "I am become death, shatterer of worlds." Even as his friends reassure him that his actions were a product of Brainwave's manipulations. All right. Okay.
Man.
We're going to start at the cover again. Let's take a look at the cover of 20 because 19, that looked great. We got to see Brainwave there, and then we get into 20 here. Jerry Ordway once again.
This one's a poster. This one's a wall
dude.
post. It says
Right.
Green Lantern wins the war, but at what price? And the All-Star Squadron logo's in blue and white with a red background. And on the front, it's obviously mourning Green Lantern. He's got his ring in the air, but he's surrounded by nothing but catastrophe. Everything around him has been destroyed. And you just got the floating heads, which I'm a super fan of the floating heads. That's a throwback. Like, I need more floating heads in my comic books today. That's a lost art, my friend. And look at that DC Bullet logo up in the corner. Oh, my God. Somebody, I'll clean up in aisle 3. Clean up in aisle 3. My God, what a beautiful cover. What do you think?
It is. Yeah, man, it's fantastic. I mean, my goodness, you can see the tears just barely coming out of Alan Scott's eyes. I mean, he's definitely, something's wrong. You know, what happened? You're trying to figure out what occurred here. Plus, if you were reading 19 and the next issue featured Green Lantern, he wasn't in issue 19. What's going on? What's happening now? Where'd he come from? How'd he get involved? So, yeah, I mean, dude, it's powerful. That's probably a very good word to use here. It's a very powerful image. So they jump right into things here. When we start this issue out, we're jumping right in. There's a lot of commentary between.
This is the war to settle the score here. This is where all hyperbole has gone out the door. Roy Thomas has run out of words, and now he's using fisticuffs, Jesse Starcher. This one is a brawl for all right here in front of us.
That's right. So I didn't really iterate this in my synopsis the best, but essentially the All-Star Squadron decide to jump into the dream world in order to try and figure out if they can save the day. They get in there. There's a lot of commentary between the team about how they need to avoid the bloodlust that the JSA had. Hey, let's hold back. Remember what we're doing here. And they start getting killed just like the other ones did. I mean,
in a more graphic nature.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is it gets a bit more violent, and specifically Robotman getting blown up and his head rolling across the ground, and then Steel getting run over by a damn tank. Like Steel's sitting there screaming as a tank runs over him until he dies, which is
do you know why he dies, Jesse Starcher? Because he's made of steel.
He's got the steel bow.
Can you imagine Wolverine was made of steel?
Yeah.
I guess it meant something back in the day.
It did.
Oh, boy.
There's stronger alloy than steel in the 40s.
What I like about this issue, this is a real throwback issue. So they're using the Dreamland to go back in time. You're visiting classic Superman and Lex Luthor. You're seeing Batman and Robin take on the Joker. It's really good stuff. You're seeing all the old Golden Age characters alive and well here. You got Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern. These are the characters that I love. This is the damn Justice League here, baby. This is the real thing.
Them showing what's going on in continuity at that point in time, I think, is what Thomas is trying to do. At this very moment, this is what's going on. And apparently all of that's being referenced is in other issues that came before, which is really cool. Yeah. I respect what he's trying to do there for sure. And it's nice to see Ordway's take on those scenes. It's fun to watch when something's being retold. Those classic Golden Age artists had their hand in telling that story, but now Ordway's got a hold of it. He's going to show you a little bit from his pencils, which is great. I love that.
And he does a good job not entirely trying to rip off the Golden Age artist. Right. He's putting his own spin on it, and it feels classic and new all at once, if that makes any sense. Like, I really love his take on Batman. That Golden Age Batman and Robin and the Joker. I love that look, man. It's so cool.
I love the Batmobile. That classic Batmobile with the, dude,
you got me, man. You got me. Take my money, Jesse Starcher. Take it.
Hell yes. We get Brainwave's backstory here, which was interesting. I love the fact that Brainwave can do all this stuff from a very young age, but he does decide to go and get his PhD and MD. Like, he decides to do that, even though he could do all this other stuff, and he's going to end up a supervillain. He's like, but I do need to get my education on. So he does get his PhD and his MD. So, okay, Brainwave.
But what do you think his time with the ladies was spent? Do you think he had any time with the ladies? I don't think so.
No, I do not believe so. Although, there is a Brainwave Jr., right? Tell me that's just by name, because if it's not, and it's a situation where it's like,
oh my God,
he did have a son.
Could it be? I don't know. I hope not.
We got to do it right now. I'm looking it up. Brainwave Jr.
No, he spawned
Henry King Jr.
No.
All-Star Squadron number 24, August of 1983. So about 4 issues, we're going to be introduced to the son, to Spawn.
He used his brain powers to seduce some poor sap. He Bill Cosby'd that woman.
Do not tell
Brutal.
us that story. Do not tell us that story. Leave that one to the imagination, please.
Roy, he showed her his Trilon. It's only 6.10 inches according to Time Magazine. We will
like
throw
Time
it.
Magazine ran a story. They ran a story on it. I wanted to throw this in here when you were talking about how verbose Roy Thomas is.
Yep.
Matt, he did that for 30 years.
I know.
4 issues a freaking month, dude.
So here's what I'll tell you. It would not work in a modern setting. Not that any kids read comic books, just letting you know. But for myself, I enjoy a little bit of text. But I like it to make sense. I like dialogue that makes sense. Think about Justice League International back in the 80s. I love that stuff. You got Keith Giffen, J.M. DeMatteis, and all these folks. And they're just going crazy on that book. I mean, those books are verbose as well, but in a good way. You couldn't wait to read the dialogue because it was good. Crisis on Infinite Earths. God, they had 9 million characters being either destroyed or brought into the DC universe and 9 million words to go with it. Like, it is a tome. So, I'm used to it, but this could come as quite a shock to somebody who's used to the pamphlets that we see today on Comic Show.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Our ending, I mean, again, it's extremely powerful. You cannot understate what happens to Alan Scott Green Lantern here as he realizes what he's done. Even though he finds out that what he did not actually happen, it still affected him emotionally, mentally. He is wrecked. He is absolutely wrecked. The end of this issue is so powerful. Like, he recognizes obviously what the horrors of war is, which I think is one of the big things that you take away from this. Yeah, that's the message.
That's the message.
The other thing is him about to kill himself. He's ready.
Yes.
He's like, I have this powerful weapon. I cannot let anybody else have it. He turns the ring, and if I remember right, there's a panel where he has the ring pointed at his head. And he looks like he's about to take his own head off with it. And then he starts to realize what is actually happening. And then,
it's grim stuff.
It is, dude. That last part where Wonder Woman is cradling him and he's just completely done. He is trying to resolve in his head what happened, and still, it's not like he just picks up and goes, oh, okay, it was all a dream. That could have been a real easy way of walking away from this. Oh, thank goodness. Alan Scott saved the day. Good.
You know what's prophetic about this? Think about what Hal Jordan does later, like down the road in the 80s when Coast City is destroyed, his hometown, his parents are all dead, and he can't accept that he may have caused the complete destruction of not only him and everyone in Coast City, but his own loved ones. He goes on a mission to use the power of the lantern to recreate his family, bring back his dead folks. You sympathize with that. But think about what Scott says here. He said, I become death, the shatterer of worlds. And boy, does he later on as Parallax. It is.
Right. It didn't even occur to me. And you're right. We have what happens in really the final few pages of this issue just used with, Hal Jordan and expanded. And like, okay, well, what would happen if this actually happened, and how would the hero react? Great point, Bailey.
You know what another great point is? So they tout these 2 issues as the return of the Justice Society. Wrap your head around that, Starcher. Where is the Justice Society? Where do they get their due? So they are stuck. It's Justice Society and Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's the only person who does anything here, because the other scenes are not of the Justice Society proper. It's Batman, Superman, Alan Scott. It's the Flash. Like, are the Justice Society really doing anything in these 2 issues? I'm going to say no. And guess what? I'm okay with that. Listen, there's so much going on here. This is the brawl issue. This is what kid Chris Bailey would enjoy. You got a full-on throwdown. You got Green Lantern powering up that ring, and he's just killing everything left and right, wiping out the villains. You got a good happy ending at the end where basically everybody lives. We go back to the status quo. You get to see Brainwave and his Cerebro helmet, and it is exactly that. It is the Cerebro helmet. He's got this entire thing that he can see and command, similar to what Professor X brings down the road. I wonder, was it inspired, Roy Thomas? Did you bring that into that new X-Men era? And listen, what I would say, I enjoyed these 2 issues. I don't think it does a good job of celebrating the Justice Society. Sort of makes them feel like, a couple jobbers that had to be rescued, but a bunch of, underlings here in the All-Star Squadron. The All-Star Squadron are pegged as the other heroes. So, Justice Society are
Right.
the main event. And the All-Star Squadron are like the leftovers. We're lucky to have them because they came from other imprints. And we are going to use them inside this book. I think that's what we have
That's
here.
right.
An excuse to use properties is what the All-Star Squadron is, I think.
Aside from dialogue issues and how dense this thing was, there was a lot of exposition happening. I enjoyed what we got still. I understand that.
Yeah,
and I wondered, is Roy Thomas is like, okay, I've got to tell a story in the 40s. I'm sure he's letting how comics were written in the 40s shape what he's doing as well. I'm sure that's from,
from the dialogue, the use of the dialogue. So think about this. We are in 2025 reading a story in the 1980s based in the 1940s. Wrap your head around that. We're like 3 generations removed from the source material here. You know what I mean? It's just nuts.
Right.
But I think it does a good job.
Well.
I think it's a good throwback. Yeah. It's intended as a throwback, and I think it hits the mark. Great art and lots of words. The words.
If you've read these 2 issues, you're going to learn about the 1939 World's Fair. That's for damn sure.
You
if you're listening
are
to this
going to know. 610 feet, Jesse Starcher, okay? 610 feet.
Chris Bailey, we did it, buddy. We went through All-Star Squadron issues number 19 and 20. I had a great time here, man. Anything left unsaid? Anything you want to throw out there about the issues? Or are we ready to go into plugs?
No, I think that, listen, it's a huge event. There's lots of talent. There's going to be lots of stories, lots of podcasts, lots of blogs involved here. Urge you to take a listen, take a look at everybody's material. Super blog team up. Super proud to be a part of this thing. JSA April, and maybe more shared content down the line. Who knows, Jesse Starcher, but this was certainly fun, I guarantee you. And it's great to come back home where I started my podcast journey. You, Jesse Starcher, are to blame because you brought me in and broke my proverbial podcast cherry, you and Mark Radlich, on the Source Material podcast. So thank you, brother, for having me again.
Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, again, JS April, just like Bailey said, he said it best there. There are tons of content out there. Type in hashtag JS April into X. You're probably going to find, I think Shag said we're at like 36 contributors, 32 or 36, over 30 contributors to this event. Which,
how can you not be part of this? Every blogger in the world is in this event.
They already are. They are.
Super blog team up had to be here.
That's right. That's right. With that being said, I want to plug my own stuff, Source Material Comics Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you can go check it out on the YouTubes. Type in Source Material Comics Podcast. I'm sure you'll be able to find it all, at least a good 2 or 3 years worth of content over there. And of course, any podcatcher that's out there, you can find where we discuss. My goodness, we got the Source Material Comics Podcast discussing comics of any era. We've got the Unspoken Issues Podcast in affiliation with the Unspoken Decade. You may already be aware of that Facebook group. Deals with 90s comics. We talk about 90s comics on that podcast. And I'll give a shout out to my boy Evan Bevins and the Snap Material podcast as well. So we're talking about Marvel Snap. Grab your mobile phone, download the game, and have a good time. It's a lot of fun, and we do a podcast about it called Snap Material. Check that out if you get a chance. With that being said, that over there is Chris Bailey. I am Jesse Starcher. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.
Back in 1940, 8 sensational heroes united to create the world's very first superhero team, the Justice Society of America. Now, 85 years later, we're gathering podcasters and bloggers from around the globe for a month-long celebration in an event we're calling JS April. Throughout April 2025, join dozens of all-star podcasters and bloggers as they each share their own unique tributes to the original and greatest superhero team, covering exciting topics like
Superman Family number 211, October 1981.
Mr. and Mrs. Superman attend the wedding of Batman and Catwoman.
JSA number 1 from 2024.
JSA 68 through 72.
All-Star Comics number 58.
JSA number 59 from 2004.
Justice League of America 171.
And Justice League of America 172.
The Legacy of the JSA character names.
The Brave and the Bold, number 61.
The Golden Age Wonder Woman JSA Adventures.
JLA, JSA, Virtue and Vice, 2002.
DC Special number 29, featuring The Untold Origin of the Justice Society.
Infinity Inc. Annual number 1, JSA number 38, and the Stargirl TV series.
Justice Society of America number 6 from 1993.
Justice Society of America number 20.
Justice Society of America Annual number 1, 2008.
Justice Society of America number 10 from 2007.
All-Star Comics number 4 from 1941.
The Wonder Woman Spectacular from 1978.
Celebrate with JSA 85th birthday cookies.
The 1987 Infinity Inc. and Outsiders Specials.
Wanted, the world's most dangerous villains number 6 from 1973.
The recent Alan Scott Green Lantern miniseries.
Examining the role of the Justice Society in the crisis.
And the effect the crisis had on the team.
More Fun Comics 55 from 1940.
Contrasting the Justice Society of America versus Marvel's Invaders.
In Post-Crisis, how the JSA inspired the JLA.
Justice League of America number 29 through 30, plus The Flash number 123.
Golden Age Origins number 1.
Showcase number 97 to 99 from 1978.
The Justice Society versus Extant.
All-Star Squadron, issues 19 and 20 from 1983.
All-Star Comics, issues 60 to 63.
JSA number 56 through number 58 from 2004.
JSA, The Liberty File.
Justice Society of America, Thy Kingdom Come.
And that's just some of the topics that will be covered during the celebration. Get ready for a thrilling month of beloved characters, fascinating insights, and incredible stories. Follow the action on social media with the hashtag JSApril, and visit our website for a complete list of participating podcasters, bloggers, and what they're each covering at fireandwaterpodcast.com/JSApril.